Hello everybody, welcome to the West End Gallery. Brian Keeler here. I'm doing a landscape demonstration of a motif over Keuka Lake near Hammondsport, New York. It's the Constantine Frank Winery, and I'm doing the same view that I did in this painting right here, which is, well, I'm doing it from the opposite side, but it's the same motif and a different season. This one was in autumn, this one is in spring. It's about the same time of day, the type of day that I call the golden hour, late in the afternoon. And I've got it established. It's taken me about 2 hours. I have a lot of work to do on it yet, but I've covered all the important decisions here, and I'll kind of give you a recap of what I've talked about here during the class. The first thing I decided was the position of the houses and the overall composition. I mentioned that I wanted there's a key thing here of the vanishing point, which is right here. It's kind of a key element here, but the overall distribution of shape. So the first decision I made a line across the canvas, and that was my eye level, and the eye level and the vanishing point coincide here. They're coincident. So that's the vanishing point and the eye level. And then we talked about the mountain here. I haven't started to paint the mountain yet, but this is the horizon, but it's different than the eye level. But the basic distribution of shape of mostly sky, and then the land. And it has really an interesting light. That was what appealed to me, this light in the foreground, which I've started to suggest, but I have a lot of articulation and work to do. And this wonderful light on the 1876 farmhouse, which is the Constantine Frank Winery here. And I've invented the clouds, but I was using a painting here in the background that I did as another demonstration. And I was talking about the clouds. Sometimes I try to emulate or articulate what I'm looking at. Other times I completely invent them. And the same with bales. There's another painting here that I painted the bales just the way that I saw them. It's in the background there. But other times I move bales around and add them for compositional reasons. And then with the clouds here, I'm thinking about the position 2, where they're generally positioned, so I have that opportunity to orchestrate and embellish them. And I'm thinking of this area here as a background cloud, so this one's in front. And then I've added a suggestion of some different values. These are basically light against mid-tone, and this will be a darker tone. And the mountain is going to be all in light here, so I have that yet to do. And I talked a little bit about aerial perspective, which I haven't started here yet, but this distant mountain is going to be diffuse and soft and with the effects of atmosphere. And you can see it in the painting above it, where we have that a term that I use is sfumato. It means bluish effects of atmosphere in the distance. So that's the basic things that I wanted to talk about here. So you saw me struggle and work on the painting, but I thought maybe if some of the audience member here want to share some of your impressions or what your takeaway was, if you learned anything, or so. You want to go first?
Well, I will. Brian made a point of the importance of the drawing and the value systems, and that's one of the things that I've been very negligent in my work, and I thank him for that, because he made a big point about the importance of establishing the dark values so that the lights can bounce off them.
Okay, thank you, yeah. Okay, what's your name?
Noah. And
Noah.
I learned about what canvas you use, how you paint it first, like Renaissance painters, so you can get that right quality you want.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was an important thing about the tone of the canvas. I didn't mention that. The whole canvas is toned a certain color here. It's a mixture of gray and burnt sienna, so it has this kind of warm tone here. And I mentioned that the old masters used this system, like Rembrandt and Raphael and all the Renaissance painters usually toned their canvas, and many of the other painters, part of the West End Gallery, I think probably toned their canvas too. So that was a good takeaway. Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Kathy?
Well, I haven't done oil since I did paint by number as a child. I do watercolor, but I've really enjoyed seeing the process as you went through. I also enjoyed your explanation of the time that you put into the drawing part, and I feel that that's really important. I get picked on because I'm pokey, but I think that drawing is critical, and having the vertical and horizontal line and plumbing up things, I thought was a really great instruction. Also seeing the looseness and freeness of how you did things, I thought was wonderful.
Oh,
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I did mention a lot about the drawing, that I thought that drawing is like about 80% of painting. And I didn't spend a lot of time on detail, but I got the basic position and composition established there. So I was mentioning that was a key part to the beginning part of the painting. Anybody else? And it's a gentleman back here. What's your name?
Gary.
Gary, yeah.
Hi, thank you very much. I think you're very good. And I wanted to ask you, is eye the same as perspective? I think it's sort of.
Yeah, I mean your vision, or.
Well, I think you know, the person isn't bigger than the house, is what
Oh.
I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And I think you have to have that.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is perspective, and
Yeah, like everything is
like
how it should be.
yeah, if there were a figure in the canvas, I did a painting of a couple of guys trimming the vines, and they were in the foreground, so they would be, you know, relatively larger here. I think that's what you're talking about, is the relative height and perspective. So the vine poles are in the foreground, but if there were a figure here, in fact, that other painting, it's someplace else in the gallery. It's not this one, but I did two figures, and one is in the foreground, and one gets, the word is diminution, going back into space.
And the other point was, do you still just work on a canvas, free form, without a photograph? Do you ever do that?
Well, I did have a photograph on my iPad that I was working for, and I was mentioning that it was almost too easy because I cropped it on the computer. But when one's outside, it's quite a bit more challenging, because we have this big universe out there, and you have to kind of somehow condense it or approach it so you can compose. So in some ways, it's easier working from a photograph than it is outside.
And do you always hold a paintbrush like this, or can you hold it like a pen?
Yeah, I very seldom do hold it like a pen. I was mentioning at the beginning that I often use a maul stick, which I didn't bring with me today, but it's basically just a dowel rod, and I put it up here like this, and then I steady my hand. And when I go back to my studio to work on this, I'll use a dowel rod so I can steady my hand to do like all the details of the windows and the various details of the trees and so forth. I'll mention one other thing is the light. The light was coming from the right, so it has this nice light direction. And it was also here on the tree. I haven't done this yet, but it'll be nicely lit on the top. It's some kind of an evergreen tree. And then there was the light on the barn here, kind of coming at a nice angle, so there's these nice slants of angles, and of course the light in the foreground there too. Okay, anybody else want to share anything? All right, so thank you so much for your attention, everybody. You've been a great audience, and it was my honor to be here to share these things with you, and come back to the gallery. The show's up till June 6th, I believe, so we've got about a month here to see the exhibit, so thanks so much.